It's finally here. Uizard has just released their AI Autodesigner to everyone with a pro plan. And I have got an exclusive limited time discount for you, so keep watching. A few weeks ago, I gave you all a sneak peek behind Uizard's Autodesigner alpha release. I have been playing with it a lot more since then, and here are my thoughts. So it seems like the AI is learning from each generation, and the more I use it, the better I'm getting at prompt engineering. So I've discovered some new tricks and tweaks so that you can get the best out of Uizard's Autodesigner. I'm also going to show you a couple of things that you might want to be aware of when you start to use it. And for all of you who have been patiently waiting to get your hands on it, make sure you grab a pro account, and you can get one with the link in my description. So last time I demoed a simple text prompt to UI design. And even with just that, I was pretty surprised by the results. Then I found out that if you give it some more art direction and specific terms, you can do a lot more with it. So you can give it more designy and UX UI terms and guidelines, and it will produce more specific results. So for this one, I'm gonna ask it to design a mobile app for a habit tracker using brutalist design style. The main color should be purple with bold typography. I want it to use a 4-column layout with a 4-point grid system. I want it to use CSS Flexbox with correct UX laws and hierarchy applied. I want to keep the contrast at AA standards, and images should be illustrations. You can see here I'm giving it direction for the type of layout, colors. I'm letting it know what kind of underlying technology I'm going to be using, and I want it to be WCAG compliant in terms of accessibility. I'm just going to try moving it down to this area because it specifically says describe a design style and keywords. So let's add that and see what it generates. So these are all things that as a trained UX and UI designer, I know to prompt it with. And so this is another reason that it's so important that you understand the foundations. You don't know these things in the first place. You don't have the knowledge to be able to feed this something that will output very quality results. So that's why it's important to take a good course, learn these things. Hint, hint, I have a great one that's linked in the description. And you can get better at using tools like these along with drawing on your skills and foundations. We have the habit tracker app generated. This first welcome screen is a little bit odd. It seems to have filled it in with placeholder lorem ipsum. But overall, you can see that it took my direction of the brutalist style. It kept it minimalist. And it's called Habit Tracker, and it's created the login screen for us. It allows you to track your meditation habits, your reading habits, exercise. You can add a new one, you can add friends, you can have a new goal, and the goal is set to, I'm not sure what this is supposed to represent, the SHLOWH. So let's click into that and see if it's missing any text. Sometimes it has a tendency to hide text. Okay, so see, it says short. So this is one of the current downsides to the generation, is that I notice whenever text is inside of a small container like a button or some contained shape like this, it does tend to cut it off. So hopefully this is something that they're working on, but you may notice that and want to adjust it. Then over here, it shows you the month. Again, these buttons are not perfectly aligned, so you probably want to resize those or move those in. So you definitely need to have an eye. And if I really zoom in close, you'll see that this background, it's not perfectly centered behind this text content there. So you're going to want to realign that. But otherwise, this has given me a really good idea of a flow that I can create. And it's got goals, so it's kind of gamified it as well, and then it has your profile. So it's done a pretty good job. It used the color purple, like I mentioned, and it's just pretty impressive that it was able to do this and take that art direction. So let's say that you wanted to go back and look at this prompt and tweak it. This is something new that Uizard has added. And if you look down here, you'll see that you can either generate another or regenerate. So generate another will actually take you back to the prompt that you originally added, and it will be preloaded so that you can tweak that and then generate another new project from it. So let's click on that. And then it will take us back over, and you'll see that it is pre-populated that prompt that you previously added. So we can add to this. Maybe we can change the color. So maybe let's change this to blue, and let's not make it brutalist. Let's say minimalist. And let's go ahead and do a dark design with that one, and maybe modern. And let's generate that. So it has done it again. It has redone this habit tracker. It's changed the color. It's made it dark design. It's gotten rid of that brutalist style, and it's given us something more minimal and modern. Pretty much the same content, the same layout, but this screen has changed a bit over here, and it's just really cool how it can reimagine these concepts. It's just such a great idea generation tool. And so the next button down here is regenerate. So if you want a completely different version of this, like maybe you want a totally different layout, you want it totally reimagined, that's when you would click regenerate. So let's do that one. This time we've got something different. It's laid out differently than the original one. It's got these two checkboxes at the start. Then there's welcome so that you can see your options here. These icons are the same, so it would probably be great if they were different and more appropriate. And then you have your images. Again, there are little things here from a refined, high fidelity UI design perspective that could really be improved. Things like these rounded corners not matching. These should definitely be radiuses that complement each other. The spacing on some of these things, not having any subtitle or description on them. Icons are not the best. It's not a set that I would choose as a professional designer. This is what's called a filled in icon, and this one's outlined. So you usually want to choose a set that's one or the other. This, we have a strange drop shadow, no outline. This is not very clear that this is a field or what it is. It's really hard to see. This time you can set up the periodicity. Is that even a word? And then it has the days of the weeks. These icons, a little bit better. They make a little bit more sense, but you can see how the text is cut off here, all of these little things. But overall, conceptually, it gives me a bunch of ideas, and I would definitely take this, maybe jump into Figma and use this as a basis. Now, a lot of you have asked, is this reciprocal with Figma? Can you export or import designs? Now, you can come over to Screen and import from Figma, Sketch, or Adobe XD, but exporting the other way around doesn't quite work. You won't be able to bring these exact designs into Figma, but you can export here as a PNG, a JPEG, or a PDF if you need to. From what I understand, at least right now, Uizard is really aimed at more of the ideation process, democratizing design, giving access to more people in product, in marketing, in development, and other areas to create something tangible fast. And so I think for it to really become a professional design app and to challenge Figma in any way, it is definitely going to have reciprocation, and it is also going to need to integrate design systems, whether that's your own or others, which I actually hear is coming. So I would not be surprised if Uizard goes in that direction, but for now, just keep that in mind. So another interesting thing is exclusion. With exclusions, we can also direct AutoDesigner to understand what we don't want included in these designs. So you can see here that they've generated a mix of illustrations and images. Let's say that we only wanted illustrations or we only wanted images. We can let AutoDesigner know this. So back over in AutoDesigner, let's create another prompt. Let's say design a bird feeding app, make it light blue, and use real images, not illustrations. So this is interesting. What it did was kind of create a wireframe. I guess that's how it interpreted the hand-drawn aspect of it. And it does indeed have no images or illustrations, but I wonder if I switch over to the other view mode. So if I go to Magic and if I go to wireframe mode, yes, it looks like wireframe mode is turned off. So let's turn that off like that. And what that does is, for some reason, AutoDesigner generated those designs in that mode. So turning it back off would, create the actual high fidelity designs. Looks like it still has illustrations and images. So it's kind of a hit or a miss, but it does have more images than it does illustrations. So that's something to kind of explore. It seems like it often does create the sign up screen or the welcome screen or the onboarding screen with illustrations, but I have noticed that it's getting better with exclusions. So another way that I've been using it is getting really specific with UX problems, with project briefs, and with flows. So let's try some of those now. So let's feed it an actual UX problem and see how well it can solve it with a UI design. This is where user research is really important, because you're really starting from a problem-first approach and understanding the issues that your users are having. And so for this one, mine's going to be that my user has just moved to a new city. They want to find the local hotspots and where all the locals hang out. And so I want to create a mobile app to help them find new things to do and people to meet. So of course we can stack on some of those style things that we talked about before. Let's say maybe rounded corners of 2 pixels. Okay, we've got City Explorer. Explore your city. So we've got a couple of screens here. You can select radio button options. And then it says what's happening in your city. It shows you some things that are going on here. You can search and filter. You can explore by these things. This would be the next screen in your search results. And then a list overview of the local hotspots, and then a map. It's pretty cool. This gives you a tight little flow for this specific problem that you can solve, of getting them onboarded, having them see what's going on in their city, search for specific things, and then show the results for that, and then show it in a map view. So another interesting example is going to be a project brief. So let's say that you're working for a client, they've given you a brief for something and you want to create that. You can input that project brief. So I'm going to grab one from a recent client, and they want to design an interior design website so that they can manage client projects, invoice and bill them, generate ideas for room layouts, all of that sort of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in here and then generate. And what we've got here is called Design Dash. And it's pretty cool. It's got the full dashboard designs, and it's got a calendar, team directory. This is a really cool visualization of the progress over time throughout the months of these different areas. Task by user, this could be task by client maybe, invoicing, high priority billing, etc. Here's a nice dashboard layout. It's got the project settings per client, per project, and the invoices like we asked. Here's a room layout, and it's got subtasks here, comments. It even did this nice overlay. And then here's a Kanban view, so you can see the to-dos, the in progress, done, notifications. This is pretty decent. It's a decent dashboard design. It's a decent starting point. This is actually one of my favorites. And this might be something that you can generate to just give a client a general idea of something before you move forward. That way they can get a visualization of the colors that you might choose, right? So you can generate this again with blue now. And we can do that by going to Magic. Don't forget about all of these other amazing magic tools. The Auto Designer is just one cool thing, one cool part of Uizard. If you watch my other video, you'll see I go through each one of these, but now we can just take this and we can change the colors from scratch. So we can make the primary color, like blue, and create that instead. So now it's going to change all of that stuff to blue. So imagine how much time this is going to save in that process where you're doing discovery with the client. You want to pitch them an idea or a couple of ideas based on their brief, get an idea of the branding that you want to go with before you start putting all of your time to designing these final screens. So this is very handy. I noticed this little pull-out area too recently with the screens, and it shows you the different screens you have here, and that's just kind of nice that you can search through these and you can just add a new screen here as well. So let's say I added a new screen to that. It does it in the same format of this, and I can add the actual screen here as well. So let's say the client is like, yeah, I like this, but I also saw this really cool design on Dribbble and I want to add it here. Well, I can scan a screenshot from Dribbble. Let's say maybe they linked us to this. So I'm going to save this to my desktop. And then back over in Uizard, we're gonna scan the screenshot. And once it uploads that, we're gonna import it. And now it has imported this screenshot. It's gonna process it, and it's gonna turn it into a fully editable design here. So now you can take some of these components, you can drag this over here, maybe use these buttons instead of those. You can take this text here and use that instead of the text that's there. And now you're just really easily generating things and concepts so that you can get approval and proof of concept before you really commit a ton of time to it. So another use case that could be interesting is just creating a single concept. So for instance, splitting a check at a restaurant, right? It's a problem, maybe something where each person would be able to see how much they owe. The layout should be large and use 4-point grid. Primary color is orange. Boxes should have a 4-pixel rounded corner. So let's see if that works. We're going to generate that. And here we have this split check concept. So it says split a check with friends and family with ease. You can add items, assign items, calculate totals. These are all of the things that you can do. Shows you the total balance, total savings, splitting the check for a vacation, for groceries for the summer. I really like how they've conceptualized this because I was more thinking of you splitting a check at a restaurant, but this actually goes far beyond that. This is like maybe if you're planning something bigger, maybe you're buying something together with friends, maybe you're planning a vacation. I think this is really cool, and it seems to track transactions as well that happen with these people that you add. I think that's really cool. I actually wouldn't have thought of it this way. So yeah, it's just really fun to play around with this. And of course, that brings me to one of my final ways that I like to use Uizard. So maybe you just want it to generate you an idea for a business or something like that. Blockchain app that actually solves a problem. Maybe we'll just say like an everyday problem. And then I'm gonna do cyberpunk, Web3, and dark, of course, techie, yes. Let's see what happens. Okay, so not the most inventive thing in the world. We've got ourselves a way to manage our cryptocurrencies. So kind of like your investment portfolio of crypto where you can see your wallets and your cryptocurrencies. You can search your history, search for different coins, and then maybe choose like a funding method or something like that. So anyway, you can see how this can take you in new and different directions or give you ideas for concepts or layouts, and it's all pretty cool. So I think there are a couple of things that AutoDesigner doesn't quite do well yet and that it's lacking. One is being able to generate just a single screen. It always tends to generate a flow, and then adding to that single screen, you really can't have AutoDesigner just add one more screen onto the flow. You've got to use one of the other magic tools, which I think it's a great compromise. It works out when you want to just maybe take another concept and duplicate it and tweak it. It's just a good starting point, but not great for that. I also noticed that it's not great at generating a specific number of screens yet. So if I tell it to do 4 screens, for example, it may do 5 or 6. It's really a toss-up. And also it may not always generate the exact components you want on those screens. So I've been experimenting with that a little bit, and sometimes my results work, sometimes they don't, but hopefully this will get more consistent in the future. So I've been experimenting in the AI space for a while now, and I've gotten a lot of your comments about some people being totally afraid that tools like this are going to have them out of a job, and others that are really excited to have an assistant do the work for them. So here are a couple of my thoughts on this stuff since you all asked. The one thing that I've noticed with a lot of these AI tools, and something that you've probably noticed with every one of these different concepts that Uizard has generated, is that everything pretty much looks the same. It has a look that looks like it was generated. It's missing some of the finer details and creativity from a human touch. And I don't think that is going to significantly change anytime soon. So of course, we're all concerned about how this technology might take over our jobs and completely upend the industry. And yes, I think there are going to be big fundamental changes and shifts in hiring, in the way that we design. But with that, I think we're also going to see a lot of data policy changes. We're going to see regulation. We're going to see a change in intellectual property laws. And just like we did when music became digital and streaming services became accessible, you're going to see there will be new revenue streams opening up for designers. You're going to see these different laws now dictating what constitutes as proprietary information, what was human generated, and who needs to be compensated for that intellectual property as these AI models are being trained on our work from the past. So whenever there are these fundamental shifts and changes, which I've seen many over the past 15, 16 years that I've been a product designer, there is always a seed of opportunity in them. At least that's been my experience, and that's the way I choose to look at it. What still takes the skill of a great trained product designer is understanding team dynamics. That teamwork, team culture, and how you all operate to actually take a product to fruition and build a business, that's going to really become front and center. And that's very unique to every organization. So AI tools are going to be really helpful in this, but that way that we work is still something that needs to be created within the teams you're working with. Right now, the way that I see AI is really just like an assistant or working with any other teammate or colleague. You need to know how to effectively communicate with them, what to say, how to lead them, how to get the best results out of it, and how to coach it to give you quality outputs. And you need to know what you don't know also in order to discern whether or not this is quality. You have to have a vision, you have to have a clearly defined problem in mind, and you have to have a destination before you can really use these tools to your advantage. And now that there are so many, if you don't really know what you're doing and where you're trying to go, it's just going to make it even more overwhelming and time consuming for anyone to pick a tool, learn it, and then stick with it. I think what excites me the most about AI is that now I get to work on bigger problems. I get to go deeper. So instead of, minimum viability, I can work on maximum valuability. And we can start offloading design debt and deploying these AI tools to deal with that so that we can work on bigger and better things. So I do hope that you try out Uizard and draw your own conclusions, and definitely keep leaving comments about what you think, because I really like hearing these things and replying to you all. And make sure you check the link in the description, because if you are on the pro plan, Uizard is going to be releasing Auto Designer to the public. So you want to be there when that happens. So click the link in the description and you'll see our students perk page. Click on Uizard and then you will see the discount code revealed for 40% off an annual pro plan or 20% off a monthly plan. And definitely watch this video next where I go through some even more amazing Uizard AI features.